Hi, how's it going, everyone? The torturers have been firing at my tooth for quite some time. I'm on codeine and naproxen as usual at the moment to minimize the pain, and it has minimized it quite considerably because the people torturing me haven't turned it up all the way. So the painkillers are actually helping me. Um, it's kind of fucking with my reflexes though, like because I'm drowsy and I wanted to do a live today while I was up at that farm. It was so beautiful and I wanted to share it with you guys, but because I had to take codeine to minimize the pain, of course, my brain was all fuzzy and I couldn't manage it. But what I wanted to come online and talk to you about today was the um, the GP appointment that I had today. Now, this meeting took place, or at least I spent time with the GP for 10 minutes and 15 seconds. Okay, so that was after you guys saw the recording from the phone call. He called me over for an examination at 12:30. We started slightly later than that. Must have been 5 or 10 minutes late, so which really wasn't that late. So he called me over for examination, and he asked me how long that I've been going through this. Now I told him that I've been going through this for about a year, but if you look at my social media records, including the time where I called the mental health back and tried to find some things out. The tooth thing, on and off, has been happening for more than a year. So I was slightly off with my timing, right? I explained to him that I've been attacked on different parts of my body because you are attacked on different parts of your body each day, but my tooth and my temple were my main concern. So he asked a fair question, so that's how narcissistic abuse normally starts, with common sense questions, right? So he asked me why I decided to do something about it today, and he said, "Why were you worried?" And I'm like, "No, I wasn't worried. I just wanted to get evidence of the bone loss so that people could get off my back talking about how all of this is in my imagination." I mean, I'm not being funny, but if the dentist could see that I had significant gum loss on one side of my face, and that was like from a couple of years ago, so you can only imagine the state that my gums are in now on that side in comparison to this side. It's been a year or two since I last saw the dentist, so you can only imagine the bone loss that would have happened then, but common sense is in short supply. But anyway, he asked me why today, and I said I needed to get evidence of bone loss, and I said that the left side was usually attacked most heavily because that's where the heart is. A lot of TIs experience the same thing, a lot of attacks on the left side because that's the heart pumps, the heart is here and it pumps blood throughout the body. So if you attack the left side, make that weak, you also by proxy weaken the heart's function as well. So I explained, okay, so basically, wait a minute, it says explained findings report provided. Oh, okay, so this is for my back, right? So during the meeting, we talked about my back, and they said that there was a slight rupture in my disc, but no lower half compression. And that was explained to me very early on. What I failed to mention during the meeting was that the worst pain was actually not in my back, it was in my hips. And my hips weren't examined because I was in so much pain, I wasn't thinking, but it was actually in my hips. My hips, that's why I couldn't walk. If it was simply to do with my back, because I've had back pain before, if it was simply to do with my back, I would have been able to walk, and I certainly wouldn't be crying out in pain like that, because I've had back pain in the past. It just left me hunched over, and that's without the painkillers. Without the painkillers, I was left with a hunched over back, and I wasn't walking very well, but I was still walking, and I wasn't in that much pain. Attack my hips, it's a different story. You attack my hips, I can't stand up, I can't walk, I can't do any of that stuff. So what I failed to mention to the GP was that it was actually my hips that were the issue and not my fucking back, which is why I was in so much fucking pain. And again, that was torture. Yeah? I also failed to mention that they only need hit you in one part of your body once, in order for you to feel it for the next few days. Now, where the pain comes in is in how high the weapons are turned up and how severe the attacks are. If they hurt you enough, they can hit you with it just once, and the pain can last you for a good few days. So I failed to mention that too, because when I'm being gaslit, I'm kind of taken out of myself, and I can only think about what I can think about in the moment. But yeah, I explained that 3 different doctors talked to me about my disc. The first 2 people said that, yeah, it was a ruptured disc and the report backs that up. But the third doctor said there was no ruptured disc and it was a musculoskeletal problem. That's basically an admission that the electronic weapons were attacking me. So it says, he asked, how long have I been in Brighton? Usual shit. Do I have family here? Do I work? Asked what I do in the meantime. These are mental health questions. Yeah, so as I said before, it said the disc was protruding, but there was no nerve damage. Like I said, with these weapons, they attack your bone and they attack your muscle. They may erode your nerves, like by virtue of what you're going through with your gums and your organs and your muscles. But from what I can see, from what I can perceive, I know this is going to sound weird, but your central nervous system is a conduit for whatever parts of the body that the electronic weapons want to attack you on. So it's like they get the fusion centers, give the information to cell towers to give to different parts of your body. But it's like your central nervous system is an antenna in itself, because if you attack certain parts of the brain, you can definitely attack certain parts of the body through that. Now, it's not necessarily so, but you can attack different parts of the body through your brain alone, let alone having weapons that attack specific parts of your body, causing gum loss. So I feel like your central nervous system becomes a conduit rather than something to be damaged outright. But then again, that's just a theory, okay? I don't know anything about biology. But I probably should have pointed that out, you know? He asked when I saw the dentist, and I said I saw them 1 or 2 years ago. Because when I last saw them, I was in the flat in London. When I last saw the dentist, and they said they were worried about gum loss. So that was a while ago. That was like 2 years ago. So if she was concerned about me having gum loss 2 years ago, then you can imagine the gum loss now, because they've been hitting my jaw heavy, like since after then, okay? So you can only imagine the gum loss there. So the doctor did a quick feel around my head, and of course he couldn't find anything. Like I knew he wouldn't find anything. And when I basically said, okay, so you can't feel any bone loss, there's no bone loss there, he tried to put a disclaimer saying, oh, well, I'm only a doctor. I'm thinking, if you're a doctor and you're not going to be entirely sure how much gum loss there is in my skull, then why did you call me over for an examination? And it became clear when he started bringing up mental health. He said he can't detect any bone erosion. So, of course, the conversation went on to mental health, if I'm seeing any professionals, if I'm taking any medications. So basically, he did that. And then on top of that, he did this several times, which I found really, really strange. When you're having an issue with any part of your body, you're supposed to talk to the GP, get the GP for a referral. I said this several times. I said because the thing is, even that stupid relocation agent that takes responsibility for these flats, even she said you have to go to your doctor. Several people that I know in Brighton, I have friends in Brighton, they said go to your doctor to get yourself referred. In fact, before they even said anything, in London, that's exactly what I was doing. I went to my GP and I said, look, I need you to refer me for this, that, and the third. They kept acting like I didn't know what a specialist was. When I went to the GP and said, look, I need you to refer me for this, they said, oh, I can't refer you, I can't do it myself. I know you can't fucking do it. I'm 35 years old. I'm a 35-year-old adult. I know you can't fucking do it. I'm calling you so that you can refer me to a specialist because that's how it works. And yet this particular GP, he acted like I didn't know that's how it worked. You see, when you're dealing with people who do that, first of all, they act like they don't know basic English. Second of all, they infantilize you whilst infantilizing themselves because they act like children. They act like they don't know basic English. They act like 11-year-olds who have just been rafted over, right? That's how they act when it comes to you. And the third thing is, when you do things that you are supposed to be doing, like trying to get evidence of your injuries, trying to get evidence not only to back up their claims, but to back up your own. When you're trying to get evidence to keep everybody honest, they act like you don't know which day it is. And yeah, that angers me. I feel that my meeting with the doctor was rather toothless, but the silver lining is that the doctor actually revealed themselves. I have the conversation recorded. Okay, so the doctor actually revealed themselves, and they revealed their own intention, and they revealed the psychiatric abuse that is actually way more widespread than we think it is. How are you going to diagnose somebody with a mental illness if you don't give them a CAT scan? And even then, you don't even give them a CAT scan, let alone get to the root of what's causing the mental illnesses. So basically, one of my TI friends was right. You're just there to peddle drugs, my guy. You're there to peddle drugs, silence political dissent, and gain control over anybody that you feel is difficult. That's what you're doing it for. You're not doing it to, at best, psychiatry is there to help people function. It doesn't cure anything. And at worst, they're basically trying to rob you as somebody who is critical of the government, as somebody who has evidence of crimes committed against you by people very high up. It's basically used to silence anybody that is going to challenge power. And if they can peddle drugs, and they can peddle their little therapies, and they can peddle their little brainwashing, on top of that, then that's how they do it. We talk about Britney Spears all the time. It's like I said it so many times. I said it before. Conservatorship abuse is not a new thing. Psychiatric abuse is not a new thing. It's been used for quite some time. It's just that when it came to poorer people, when it came to people who were already sick, when it came to people who already needed the help, they were not listened to because they already needed the help. Get them out of the way. We'll talk about it later. And that's how vulnerable people are treated. But now Britney Spears is going through it. Suddenly everybody gives a damn. Do you understand what I'm saying? And love to Britney. I love Britney Spears. I am very, very clear about that. I love Britney. I love Britney. I've always loved her. I've always connected with her. But, that's not her fault. It's not her fault that people prioritize her story over the story of ordinary people who have long been trying to tell you what's going on for decades, especially black folk. It's not her fault that the public chose to only acknowledge things that made them feel comfortable. That's not her fault. That's your fault. That's the public's fault. It's not hers. Okay? But psychiatric abuse has long been a thing. My partner, whom I love, who is amazing, he has been subject to psychiatric abuse, and he's been speaking out against it since he was a child. He's been through psychiatric abuse since he was a kid. And he's been speaking out about it. He's speaking out about it now, still. Psychiatric abuse is way more widespread than we think it is. And yet we've got these people who are relatively calm and of sound mind in the first place, and therefore easy to treat, parading around as if mental health is the best thing since sliced bread. Oh, they changed my life. No, darling, they helped you function. They didn't cure you of anything. They didn't help you understand yourself. They just reduced you to an infantile state so that they could reprogram you from there, because that's what they do. They infantilize you. They reduce you to the level of a child, either psychologically or in other ways, it can be even physically with drugs, what they're doing is reducing you to a dependent state so that they can reprogram you from there, so that you will do anything and everything to appease them and to convince them that you're functioning. That's not the same as curing anybody. That's not the same as making them well. That's not the same as looking out for their welfare. That's why I think that the current way of doing things with mental health, that needs to be scrapped. Because it doesn't matter how much evidence I have of electronic torture, of the fray effect, of the injuries sustained not only by the weapons themselves but of non-ionized radiation. All these things, all this evidence that's been compiled, all this research that's been compiled from very qualified people, from particle physicists, from CIA whistleblowers, from doctors, all this evidence and all this medical evidence, professors of magnetobiology, all of these experts compiling their research together over decades, trying to warn people of what's going on. They're not being heard. They're not being listened to. You could literally provide their research on top of your own evidence of what's happening to you. Like I said, I got evidence of bone loss. I didn't tell the doctor, but the thing is, I've actually got an email from the dentist proving that there's bone loss. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you could have all the evidence in the world as a vulnerable person, but that will be dismissed based on speculation in the mental health profession or in psychiatry. So all of your evidence as a vulnerable person, even if that evidence is tangible and beyond doubt, somebody could come in as a mental health professional, and because they haven't done their research, and because they have no understanding of what's going on, and because they are confused, and because they don't know what, their arse from their elbow, they can come in and decide to take control over your life based on the nothing that they know and the no evidence that they provide. They have a CAT scan. They don't have any other test to do with hormonal issues. They don't have a CAT scan to prove any parts of the brain that have sustained enough trauma to cause paranoid schizophrenia, to cause psychosis or any of these things. They don't have CT scans. They don't have skull x-rays. They don't examine the root cause of trauma beyond going back to your parents. Again, they're talking about it in the media. Essential workers are gang stalkers. You know what? I'll get to that. You made an excellent point. I'll get to that. That's true. Man, I don't even know what to say. That's true as fuck. But I'll get to that in a second. But you could have all your evidence and they could have nothing but speculation in their corner. No CT scan evidence, nothing. Just because you're espousing something that they don't believe, is true, or that confuses them, that's enough for me. That's enough for them to believe that you might be a danger to yourself or other people. That's enough for them to believe that you might have a hormonal imbalance. I'm thinking, what the fuck does electronic torture have to do with emotion? What the fuck does researching into emotional torture and magnetobiology and alchemy and talking to your GP in the way that you're supposed to talk to them, what the fuck does any of that have to do with brain imbalance? What does gum erosion, which has been proven, have to do with chemical imbalance? And that's before we even get into the bombardment of low frequency energies, which is proven to cause mental illnesses anyway, or at least synthesize them. What the fuck does proven evidence have to do with brain imbalance? How does brain imbalance or chemical imbalance cause tangible evidence or beyond doubt intelligence or beyond doubt evidence? How does a hormonal imbalance or a brain imbalance or a chemical imbalance cause you to do what you're supposed to do with a GP, or cause you to actually look for evidence of what not only the doctors are talking about, but what you are talking about? How does chemical imbalance cause that? And yet they can't answer you, and yet they can make these very serious decisions on your life based on what? Based on what? They can make these decisions based on nothing. Based on absolutely nothing. And that's how conservatorship abuse is done. That's how psychiatric abuse is done. The point of conservatorship, or the point of sectioning, is to prove that you cannot function in the same way as a normal person. That's the whole idea behind getting mental health involved, or sectioning, or hey baby. That's the whole point, behind getting sectioning involved or anything else like that. That's the whole point. The whole point is to make sure that, you don't upend your entire life because of how sick you are. But this is the rub now. The rub is that it's no longer necessary for you to actually be in danger of harming yourself. It's not necessary for you to be unreasonable or not of sound mind. None of that is necessary. All that's needed is for mental health professionals or your GP to state that they believe that you need extra help. And that's dangerous. You don't actually need to have, extra help. They just need to believe that you need it. Psychiatric abuse is very easy to do from there. Very, very easy to do from there. Now let's get to this. Let's get to this TI who said they're talking about it in the media. Essential workers are gang stalkers. Listen. Facts. Absolute facts. That's exactly what they are. That is exactly what they are. They don't even realize it. I said years ago, right, that the only way that the government are going to be honest about what they're doing is if they expand gang stalking. Okay? Now, certain medical staff won't know it. Certain paramedics won't know it. They won't know that's what they're doing. But basically, that's what they're hired to do. They are hired to peddle drugs to people. They are hired to basically keep society under control through increasingly oppressive means. That's what they're hired to do. Only they don't realize it because they're health professionals. Okay? Because they're not just dealing with mentally ill people. They're also dealing with cancer patients. They're dealing with people who actually have caught COVID. They're dealing with people who sustain internal injuries, like all this type of shit, right? So whilst they're stretched to capacity dealing with people who need help, they're not noticing that they're actually performing gang stalking on a widespread level as ascribed by the Ministry of Health. But they are gang stalkers. They just, it's just that some of them don't know they're gang stalkers. They just don't know it. The thing is that when all these illnesses are happening left, right, and center, and you hold in your hand the answers as to why so many illnesses are so widespread, and instead of actually taking that seriously and saying, okay, well, we need to sort this out, you're instead medicated or sectioned or infantilized in order to control you. That's gang stalking. That's gang stalking on a widespread scale. What I'm going through is just an extreme example of what vulnerable people go through every day. They're infantilized. Whatever little cognitive ability they have is dismissed. Imagine what that does to your psyche. Imagine there are certain things that you know are right. You have evidence for it, and you're vulnerable as hell. Imagine what that does to your psyche. But that's what these essential workers are hired to do. They're hired to maintain a status quo or to help the government silence and get rid of people. That's what they're hired to do, only they don't realize it because not all of them are fucking sociopaths. Some of them are, really do want to help. That, some of them really do want to help. And the fucking hours these people, the hours that they work on top of that. These medical staff and these paramedics, they have to deal with cutbacks. They have to deal with fucking, all this paperwork that they have to deal with, which each patient, and how many hundreds of patients do they have to deal with? They've got to deal with not only mentally ill patients, but cancer patients. So when it comes to the mental health profession, of course, what they're trained to do is try to get us out of the way so that we can't say anything else. That's what they're trained to do, so that they can focus on the people who, according to the Ministry of Health, actually need or deserve the help. That's what they're there to do. They don't even realize, because when they came into this, they said to themselves, I want to help people. A lot of them came into this saying, I'm not just doing this for the fucking paycheck. I want to actually help people. I want to do something worthy with my time. So, like, they're working such long hours for shitty pay, for the shittiest pay. They're working long hours for the shittiest pay. They've got all this paperwork that they're snowed under. How much are they going to know about the Frey effect? How much are they going to know about directed energy weaponry? Realistically, how much are they going to know about sonic weaponry used by police and military? How much are they going to know about the fact that mental illness can easily be synthesized through these weapons? How much are they going to know about the bombardment of low frequency through cell towers, which can easily be done? How much are they going to know about fusion centers? How much are they going to know about gum erosion, caused by these electronic weapons that are bombarded against not only one specific person, but multiple members of the public? When they've got all of that to deal with, on top of the shitty pay that they have to deal with, so they have to worry about paying bills on top of that, how much are they going to know? Yeah, psychiatric, yeah. Okay, let me read these comments, because these comments are speaking facts right about now. Okay, so psychiatric reprisal is real, absolutely. And somebody else said it's all spiritual. We're chosen and special people, so they keep us off our path. I'm going to be honest with you about that. No. I know what he means. He's saying it's spiritual because I know why he's saying that. I know why he's saying that. It's not all spiritual, you're right. Spiritual is a part of it because it's alchemical. It's alchemical, so it's not just spiritual. It's astral, it's physical, it's all of it. All of it is incorporated in it. And the central nervous system is at the heart of it, as well as the heart itself. But yeah, the reason why I say he's not wrong is because the ordinary human being, as a rule, is a source of incredible energy and incredible abilities. What the human being is capable of when they're at their maximum potential, it makes controlling other human beings difficult, right? So if everybody used their brain power and everybody used the full capacity of their physical prowess, if everybody's super, then nobody is. Human beings are beings of incredible power and incredible energy. Keeping us docile is how the weakest of us maintain their power, and they do this through psychological manipulation chiefly. It is spiritual. Spiritual is definitely a part of it. It's all incorporated. They keep human beings down. Black people most of all, sure, but they keep all human beings down because of the fucking potential that we carry, because of our agreeableness, our intuition. And I'm not just talking about black folk, I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about all human beings. Most of us are way more agreeable and way more intuitive and, better able to understand how the world works than the people who are taking control of us. So what's needed in order for us to doubt ourselves, in order for us to doubt our own reality, in order for us to kind of, ingest these lies, it takes cunning. to get around people like that. Our empathy has to be exploited. Our emotions have to be exploited. That's always going to be our Achilles heel, because that is what the animal sides of ourselves are comprised of, emotions. And if you get that, you can easily wear us down and rob us of our potential. That's what this is about. It's about fucking control. At the end of the day, targeting gang stalking as Judeo-Masonic. Listen, man, what the thing that I know, the things I know about the Judeo-Masonic shit, baby, ooh, that's a long conversation. Like, but yeah, it's Judeo Christianity is what. Well, I could say Christianity is not just Christianity. All religions are tied up in the Masonic, because it's about alchemy. So, yeah, it's about exploiting your emotions. Your emotions are by far the most animal part of yourself. Your emotions are your animal part, and your conscious human part is in your actions. So basically, if they can manipulate your emotions, they can manipulate everything else. They can, if they can manipulate your emotions, they can manipulate what you think. If they can manipulate what you think, then they can manipulate what you do. And that's how they get us. That's how these so-called cunning people, they get the rest of us. That's how these weak people get the rest of us. Through attacking our emotions repeatedly. Through having us in fear. That's how gang stalking has been able to be widespread. And this ain't the first time that gang stalking has been around. Every single time there's an end of an era, or there's the end of an empire, there's always been a bloated government system, an increase in gang stalking, and fucking culling. It's always been six. Okay, hold on a second. I made supposed anti-Semitic comments online, and neighbours saw and threatened to sue me for hate speech, and have LAPD investigate me. 6 to 8 months later, the gang stalking started. What we really have to be careful of is attacking Jewish folk, because what we have to realise is that Jewish folk, like people at the top levels, people at the very top, they're not just Jewish. They're top they're top people of all different religions, and not all different ethnicities. Most of them are white, but they're top people of all different religions. They use specific Jewish occultism, just like they use specific Muslim occultism, just like they use Hindu occultism. They use different types of occultism, but it's not specifically Jewish. It's not specifically a Jewish thing. That's why when people talk about Zionism and things like that, I'm thinking, okay, let's talk about Zionism, but we also have to talk about other sects like Mormonism. Mormonism is definitely involved in gang stalking. Jehovah's Witness, for a fucking fact, is definitely involved in gang stalking. So if we're going to talk about one specific schism within a religion, then we have to talk about other religions and other schisms, because they're definitely involved in the gang stalking. Okay? And Freemasonry, in particular, has roots in Rosicrucianism, which roots go back to Gnosticism, which is Christianity. So it's hold on a second. Gang stalking has been around since biblical times. It was perfected during the East German and stuff. Yes, that Bible is a fucking manifesto. It's not a prophecy. It was perfected during the East German Stasi, and now in current time they've perfected gang stalking with technology. They're always going to perfect it. Jews believe non-Jews are animals. It says in the Talmud. Just because it says it in the Talmud, it doesn't mean all Jewish people believe that. That's something we have to be careful of as well. That's what will have us being called anti-Semitic. I've been around Jewish people. Most Jewish people are like just normal folks like everybody else, and they don't walk around thinking their shit doesn't stink. Like, they're just normal people. Most Jewish people do not know about the Talmud and what it contains. yeah, the Muslim religion says the same thing. Yeah, my grandma is an Italian Jew. No, 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 no. I'm not saying you hate Jewish, but I'm saying we have to. I'd even be open to dating a Jewish person if they weren't hateful and we liked each other. Um, so I'm definitely not anti-Semitic. Again, you know, most Jewish people that I know that I've come into contact with are just normal people, and they don't know about this stuff. They don't know about the Talmud. They don't know about, you know, most of them are non-practicing, so they don't know about this stuff. So yeah, I'm very careful when I'm talking about specific schisms, specific religions, because it's like, you know, we're all just normal people having an experience. The place that we really need to look is at the top of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid uses occultism from all various different religions in order to control us, and they've always been doing that. Like I said, it's not just Zionists. There is other schisms as well from other religions, but yeah. So yeah. So yeah, and it's stuff like that you know, it's a cabal. The cabal, like I said, Freemasonry has roots in Rosicrucianism. That's not Jewish. They use the Kabbalah, sure, but it's not Jewish. It's Gnosticism. Um, but yeah, so I'm very careful when I talk about schisms with regards to this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, well, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, um, I'm very careful when I talk about schisms when it comes to this. It inevitably boils down to one thing: our emotions are being manipulated, which manipulates our thoughts, and if and our thoughts control our actions. So if you get somebody on their emotions, which is the animal side of ourselves, and it affects the conscious side of ourselves, which is our actions. Which is why when a lot of people have certain thoughts and opinions and they take for granted that that's the real truth, I get very skeptical, because the thing is, I know how emotions can be manipulated. When our emotions are manipulated, it's our brain's job to rationalize what we're feeling. If your emotions are manipulated enough, you can rationalize anything. Like, especially if you're intelligent and articulate enough to do it, you can rationalize anything. That's why I don't trust people who have their mind made up before they had the issue. One had the Knights Templar Red Cross on his motorcycle helmet. Hey, listen. Big facts. Big facts. Knights Templar are involved. And they're still banging on about the fucking Nizari assassins. They ain't dropped that yet. Still banging on about it. But anyway. So what was I saying? Yeah, so our emotions are the key to our animal cells. And once you manipulate that, you know the rest. I've said it before. That's why I don't trust people who make up their minds before they hear an issue. Because, it doesn't take logic and reason to be articulate. Many people think that in order for one to be a genius, it takes rationality, it takes logic, it takes reason. No, it takes the opposite. It takes pure irrationality. It takes emotion and the brain's powerful ability to rationalize it. That's why I don't trust people who only have like one particular viewpoint. I don't trust it, because it's like your emotions are being manipulated. You don't even realize your emotions are being manipulated, and right now you're intellectualizing that shit as if it's fact, just because you're articulate enough to put into words what you're rationalizing. You can put into words how what you're rationalizing, but you can't seem to put into words how you're being manipulated, because you didn't think of that. So that's why I don't trust people who have their mind on one thing, who make up their mind before they hear the issue. I don't trust people like that. Never will. It's always the smarter people. It's always the ones who are the academically smarter ones. They always have the most mouth. They always have the most mouth and the shittiest judgment. That used to be me at one point. You stay there. It used to be me. It used to be me at one point. I have all this rationality. You have all this articulacy. And you have the shittiest judgment known to man. Because the only truth you know is limited by what you're feeling or what you want to feel. And then you reinforce that with academia. You reinforce your irrationality with academia so that to you it looks like reason. Don't bring that over here, man. But then again, non-academic people do it too with the things that they experience. They do it with the things that they experience. So just like the academic person, they act like they know everything based on what they've read and based on what they've theorized. The non-intellectual person act like they know everything based on what they experience and what they choose to feel. So no, I don't trust nobody like that. I don't trust nobody who has like a fixed opinion on shit and, you know, and don't ask questions, don't do what they're supposed to do. I don't trust that. So, yeah, I still got the torture in my tooth here. I still feel it. They're still firing. Either they're still firing or what I'm feeling is the residual pain of what happened this morning. But they do turn it on and off in accordance to who I'm talking to and who I'm seeing. Because they figure if they turn off the torture when I'm talking to doctors or they turn off the torture when I'm talking to mental health professionals, then it might as well be that the torture doesn't exist. Only the fucking gum erosion on the side of my mouth says otherwise. Cloves. I got you. I got you. Everybody, the plants that are surviving are saying try cloves. Herbs might not cure anything immediately, but the thing is, the more we use natural remedies, the more our bodies get used to them, and it actually reinforces our body's abilities to heal themselves, right? So it's always worth trying natural medicine. It's always worth trying herbs. So I'm gonna see if I can get some cloves, because Brighton is, you know, it's not just beaches, it's actually largely countryside, so I should be able to find some cloves somewhere. You know what I mean? I live opposite a greengrocer, so they might have some clothes too. But anyway, let me see. Is there anything else that I need to bring up? So yeah, so basically, to summarize, the doctor got me, you know, they examined me, said that they didn't find anything. They only brought me over there to get me referred to mental health. Yeah. Gun recession is common. Gun recession is common. It's common among targeted individuals. It's common among everyone, but in targeted individuals, you know, you got people with the neem toothpaste. I've heard of neem. I think they might have it over here, but I've heard of neem as well. Yeah. But to basically summarize, the doctor only really brought me over there so that they could form a picture of me as an individual and maybe form me as mentally ill or something. I don't know what they were hoping to do. Maybe they were hoping I would show up looking disheveled or some shit, or maybe they were hoping I'd stumble over my words, or, you know. But they only brought me over here to waste my time and to basically try to get me referred to mental health, even though I already referred myself. This is why you do things in reverse. Because now he can't use that as an argument, because I already referred myself for the CBT and I already got the assessment through my own back. So I'm glad you do these lives. Yeah. No, we're not. At first, it feels like you are, because it's like, again, other people make their minds up based on how they're feeling, and then they project that onto you. They project their irrationality onto you. So it makes you feel like maybe I am crazy, maybe, if you don't think you're crazy, if you know you're not making this up and you know that you're being tortured, it makes you think, maybe I should stop this, maybe I shouldn't talk, maybe, like, you when you go through this a certain amount of time, you start to realize, A, you're definitely not crazy, B, this is not about craziness, this is about money, ultimately, and this is about social control. And C, it doesn't matter how much evidence you have in your corner and how intelligently you frame things. If the other side has the money, that's all they need to rest on. They don't need to be excellent. They can just show up with their mediocre selves, making speculations on your life. And that's all they need in order to ultimately have control over your life. And that's psychiatric abuse. So yeah, you do come to realize that you're not crazy. You're never making this up. And you know, a lot of the things that I said when I was at my sickest, they've come to pass. And that's when I was at my sickest. I didn't speak about a word about, yeah. With me, I did the opposite. I didn't tell my immediate family at first, or at least when I tried to, I kind of backed down after a while because it just made it clear that they weren't listening. So I just decided to talk to people who understood what it was like to be in my position. And then, I do everything in reverse. I start with the outside world, mental health, and then I come downwards, because it's important to get evidence of what I'm talking about before I bring it to my family. That way, if they choose not to believe me, that really is on them. It really is on them. If they choose not to believe me with all this evidence in front of them, that's on them. So I do things in reverse. I'd advise all real TIs to make videos and talk about it that way. If anything happens to you, they'll know. Yeah, a lot of real TIs do already do that. They already document everything that they're going through. A lot of them tend to document people stalking them, so that it's like they do get evidence of the perps that are stalking them. What I would suggest for TIs, in order to kind of reinforce the plants are surviving's point here, I would advise all TIs to think about what is most important to them and use that as a focal point to build your evidence on. What a lot of TIs do is they treat their targeting as an all-encompassing experience. And, because they don't focus on one particular area of their lives, when they do bring evidence to the table, even if it's well organized, it tends to be scattered, because they're not focused on one particular area where they can pierce through. Their focus is all over the place, so it's like they get, do you know what I mean? It doesn't penetrate. So it's like the advice that I would give TIs to reinforce the plant's point is to have one area of focus that means something to you. I have one area of focus. You guys know what that area of focus is, okay? I don't need to say it. There is one area of focus that you need to focus on. And that way, it doesn't matter what, your government tried to say and do in order to subdue you. That one area of focus has basically given you all the evidence you need to basically prove, okay, this is what's happening to me. I'm being abused, I'm being tortured. My word isn't being taken seriously, even though I actually have evidence to back up my shit. Yeah? So pick one area of... they're sent and paid to talk crazy and make real targeted individuals appear to be crazy. There are fakes out there. I'm not going to lie. There are fakes out there. It's true. There are fakes out there. They perform they perform a triple purpose. The first purpose is to make real TIs, distrust each other. The second reason why they're there is to trigger TIs by saying dumb shit. And the third is to basically infiltrate to find out what we know, even though there's no reason to really do that. I mean, but it's not like we're hiding it. So yeah, they're firing here as well. It's very light, but yeah. So is that it? I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah. I'd already did my summarization of what the doctor did. Basically, it was just an exercise in time wasting and trying to peddle drugs and brainwashing therapies. But then you guys already knew that. But now I have to go. I want to thank the people who have joined me for this live. I want to thank them for their contribution, because they spoke, listen man, you guys spoke big facts during this video. Big facts. You understand? So I want to thank you guys for joining me and for being here, and yeah, thank you guys. So you guys take care of yourselves. I love you. Peace and blessings. Mwah. Bye.